Hi, my name is Sevi, and this is my final presentation on drag in the media, performance, representation, and resistance. Drag performance functions as a form of aesthetic resistance, using costume, performance, and media to construct new visions of identity and community. Through its artistry, drag transforms the experience of self-expression into a collective act of visibility and empowerment. The topics I will mainly focus on for this presentation will be the history and culture of drag, drag in the media and mainstreaming, community and the LGBTQ community specifically, and how drag has empowered and moved them forward. And then finally, drag as aesthetic resistance. To start off with history and cultural foundation of drag. So, drag didn't begin in nightclubs or on television. It actually has deep cultural roots. In early theater traditions, especially in Europe, performers often played genders not assigned to them, not for political reasons, but because theater itself was gender restricted. So, men would play women in Shakespearean stages, and females would play men just to have the roles be more fluid. Anyone could play anyone in the form of theater. But modern drag, which is the drag that we recognize today, grew out of queer subcultures. So during the early 20th century, drag appeared in underground clubs, but gained actual enormous cultural weight in the 1980s in the Black and Latina ballroom scene. The documentary Paris is Burning shows how drag balls offered performers the freedom to create fantasy versions of themselves, versions that society denied them. Drag became a tool for survival, expression, and chosen family. This is where theory meets lived experience. Bell Hooks described art created by marginalized people as a form of aesthetic rebellion. Drag embodies that rebellion, using exaggeration to reveal the constructed nature of gender. It breaks open binaries, transforming beauty, humor, and performance into tools of resistance. This history is vital because it reminds us drag has always been political, creative, and community driven, long before it ever reached mainstream media. Speaking of, our next topic is the mainstream media. Drag in the media, representation, and mainstreaming. So, I had an interview with gender studies scholar Carly Hannon, who is studying at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where we talked all things drag and what she has learned in her studies about the foundation of drag. And also, as growing up in Brooklyn, she was going to drag shows every summer. And one of the quotes that I think really stuck out and speaks to the media and also just the foundation of drag was her saying, online drag was kind of produced and polished. But live drag was this raw emotional experience for me. And that's kind of when I became hooked with it, just to be really up close and personal with it. I think that really is how drag, I mean, that's how drag started was it's this one-on-one experience. There's no phones, there's no media. It's just you and the artist itself. And that is something that the media has kind of taken away. And it's definitely become a more performative thing versus performance. In the 21st century, drag's relationship with media transformed everything. The biggest force was 100% RuPaul's Drag Race. This show launched drag into mainstream culture, giving performers global audiences, brand deals, and career paths that would not have been possible just a decade earlier. This show pretty much just blew the gates open for drag. But the visibility is complicated. Some people argue that drag's mainstream representation can become celebrification, turning an art form rooted in rebellion into a polished entertainment brand. So, kind of what Carly in her interview was talking about earlier, how it's less of this thing about expression identity and becoming more of a thing about branding and making money and popularity. On one side, I mean, drag becomes more accepted, performers gain platforms and stability, and queer identity reaches global audiences, which those are all positives. But on the other side, certain drag aesthetics become more preferred or rewarded, usually thin, white, glamorous queens, not very body positive or open to people of color. The radical community-based roots of drag can be overshadowed. So what we're really doing here, what we're speaking about, can be kind of pushed to the side. And audiences may think there's only one form of drag and it's what you're seeing on TV here. So social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram add another layer. They give local performers incredible visibility, but then they also reinforce the beauty standards that mirror mainstream biases. So again, you're only seeing this very polished side, even though this new form of media can be really positive because it's just adding a whole new way to get your voice out there. It is again only showing one form of drag. But still, drag artists use social media as a form of activism and storytelling. Digital drag creates new ways to share identity, humor, and politics. Media hasn't erased drag's power, but it has reshaped the conversation. Community, celebration, and queer voices. So I went to an event for my studies and I went to a drag bingo show at the Sexploratorium in Denver. I went early so I could take a picture of this Sexploratorium, which, as you can see, there was educating posters all on the walls. There was stuff about the history of sex, the history of drag, the history of the LGBTQ community, all over. And then we had the lovely Alice Glamour come out and started with performance for all of us where she danced, she sung, she did the splits, there was acrobatics, and then she led this game night and then performed again, whole new costume, whole new wardrobe, new wig, new everything. And then at the end she sat down and just talked one-on-one, answering questions about her experience in drag and the community that it has built for her. She's been doing drag for 13 years and said that this is her home away from home. I mean, this is everything. And that really made me feel the community, that this is not just a hobby, this is identity, this is the core. One of the most impactful parts of my research was attending that drag night and just seeing, this what we're seeing in the pictures here. I mean, this is a community, this is beauty, this is love. They're not just performers, they're shared experiences. And for many people, that is acts of survival. That is all they have, and that's what they've been waiting to express. This joy is powerful. It contradicts narratives that queer life is only about hardship. Yes, it is very challenging to be a queer person, but this is joy. This is community. This is celebration. And in these spaces, identity becomes communal rather than isolated. And this is groundbreaking. Drag doesn't just reflect queer communities, it actively builds them. And especially in drag, as we can see on the right here, RuPaul's Drag Race winning an Emmy. I mean, this is historic for queer voices to be seen on this big of a screen and for queer people to be able to find their community, find their people in this form of media is beautiful and has never been seen before. There's never been public spaces like this, like pride events we see on the left, where people can just come together, feel seen, and it's groundbreaking and it's historical and it's very beautiful to see. Finally, the aesthetics of drag performance as resistance. So, this was a quote from Alice Glamour, the drag performer that I saw and talked to about her experience, where she said, "Drag has been my freedom. It's my way of standing up for myself against the haters in this world and expressing myself despite them." So, there are people that are going to tear you down for no matter who, what, how you are. But drag is a way of saying, this is who I am, despite whatever you want to say, despite if you want to believe it or not. This is my truth. This is who I am, and I'm going to express it. Drag is an aesthetic practice, meaning its power lies on how it looks, sounds, and performs. The aesthetics of drag, they can include makeup, costuming, choreography, music, persona, and this has always been a thing. I mean, as you can see in the left, drag and also just queer rights they've always been here and they will always be here fighting for their rights. And drag is another way to defy norms. It's not just about looking pretty and being fun. It's about making a stand, making a movement. It's an art. Together, all these different forms of aesthetics can create performances that challenge how audiences understand gender and identity. Every element, coming from the makeup to the wigs, they carry the performance and they carry the movement. Gender is performative. It's something that we do. Drag makes that visible. By exaggerating femininity or masculinity, drag reveals how constructed those categories really are. And this is where resistance happens. If gender is something you can perform, then it's something you can also transform. So drag uses beauty, humor, and exaggeration to resist norms that can try to restrict identity. It transforms self-expression into activism without needing to say a word. So, in the media context, drag becomes a full sensory argument through light, sound, fabric, gesture, and voice, all different forms of media and technology. Drag performers challenge audiences to rethink what's real, what's possible, and who gets to be visible. So, drag is using media forms to say, we are here, we stand up, and we will not be pushed aside. We will resist, and we will use our art, this form of beauty, this form of expression, to stand up for this movement that has always existed, to stand up for people that have always existed and will always exist, despite if people want to push that down, despite if sometimes the media is not mainstream. It is here, it is loud, and it will not be denied. And that is what my whole project is about. Drag is shaped by a long history, a strong sense of community, and a legacy of resistance. Media exposure has transformed drag, but it has not erased its cultural or political roots. Drag's aesthetics actively challenge and disrupt traditional gender binaries. Through performance, drag reimagines what identity can look like and who gets to define it. So, thank you for listening. Here are my works cited, which I will turn into actual citations for the final project. And here are some questions I had for my review. I wanted to know, would a video clip for my interview be preferred to just reading their quote out loud? Should I say the sources I get my information from after every slide or just have them all at the end? All my image citations are in the speaker notes. Should I say those out loud or add to my works cited page? Is my slide theme too distracting? And is my face required to be in the video? So thank you for watching, and I hope I can get some good feedback.